as computer technology has advanced, so have our ports and expansion slots. We're going to talk about serial ports and parallel ports. Then we'll talk about some of the more modern ports like USB ports and IEEE 1394 ports or FireWire ports. And then we'll talk about expansion cards, and in particular the PCI and ISA expansion slots. So let's start with serial ports. Serial ports are so named because they transmit data one bit at a time in succession. If you can picture a string of ones and zeros, or ons and offs, or power downs and power backups. They're identified by the number of pins. Most serial ports have either 9 or 25 pins, and most serial ports have a male connector at the computer. There can be female serial ports, but most are male at the computer. So in this picture, this port is a serial port, and this port is a serial port. The serial ports are most often used for communication. As a matter of fact, the COM ports that are built into most computers, COM ports 1 through 4, are all serial ports. So we can use a serial port connected with a modem to a telephone line to have communications over the telephone lines. But part of that communication is a very special serial port called the UART chip. This is built into the computer, and UART stands for Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. The UART chip controls all 9 pins of a serial port. It sets the communications protocol, and mostly what a UART chip does is it converts parallel data bits received from the computer system into serial bits. In other words, it's like a 32-lane highway of ones and zeros all mixed together coming out of the computer. And this 32-lane highway must be merged into a 1-lane highway so that the bits can go through the modem and out through the telephone lines. The UART chip has a driver, and there are many different types of drivers, but the UART 16550 is the most common driver, and it's built into the Windows 9X operating systems and operating systems after Windows 9X. With a Windows operating system, 9X or better, and a UART 16550 chip, we can theoretically communicate at 56 kilobits per second. We don't actually get that speed over telephone lines in most cases, and we'll talk more about that in our communications section. But there's a different type of port that's used for a different use, and it's called a parallel port. And we're going to talk about that in our next section.